You toil, you earn, yet your wealth whispers nothing but emptiness. Because without this one cunning action, money is a hollow weapon, powerless in your hands. Today, I reveal the secret the knave never grasp, how to make currency bow to your will. Observe the world, and you will see. Men worship money, yet few command it. It flows into their coffers, yet leaves their influence barren. Wealth alone is impotent. It is the mind, the strategy, and the subtle manipulation of circumstance that endows it with authority. In this discourse, we shall peer into the shadows of ambition and uncover the cold, unfeeling truths that separate the master from the fool. Prepare to see money not as a tool, but as a servant, if, and only if, you possess the will to wield it. Do you see men scurrying through the world, clutching their coins as if they were talismans? They believe wealth alone grants safety, respect, and power. Yet, watch closely, and you will see them betrayed by their own ignorance. Gold in a vault does nothing. Silver piled high cannot command armies, sway kings, or bend the will of men. Money, in its naked form, is impotent. It is the fool who thinks wealth is power. Power is earned only when money becomes a servant to strategy, a weapon in your unseen arsenal. Consider the merchant kings of Florence, men whose coffers overflowed yet, whose voices were whispers in the corridors of influence. Wealth alone could not shield them from rivals, nor compel loyalty from the ambitious. Only when they manipulated alliances, lent funds with subtle obligations, and whispered promises hidden in contracts, did their gold transform into authority. Without such cunning, their treasures were little more than ornaments in a gilded cage. Tell me, what use is a sword if you do not know when or how to strike? Money is the same. It is strength only when it wields control. History offers lessons wrapped in blood and betrayal. Look to the Medici, whose riches were vast, yet whose true power was in perception. Their influence was not simply a function of their wealth. It was the web of favors, debts, and strategic marriages that made Florence bend to their will. The gold-funded armies, yes, but it was the careful orchestration, the subtle intimidation, and the invisible hand guiding civic decisions that made them untouchable. Coins in a chest cannot command a city. Only the mind directing those coins can. Ask yourself, do you command your wealth, or does it merely sit under your name, admired but powerless? Psychology teaches the same lesson. Men respond not to numbers, but to perceived authority. Money without influence is a siren song, luring envy but inspiring neither loyalty nor fear. You may have riches, yet a clever adversary can manipulate your scarcity of influence to undermine you. Humans are emotional, impressionable, and guided by subtle cues far more than logic alone. The gold you clutch in your hand speaks nothing to the mind or heart of others. Influence, however, speaks loudly through gestures, timing, and the quiet pressure of unseen leverage. Wealth must learn to whisper, to threaten, to seduce. Only then does it become alive. Even the great conquerors understood this truth. Consider Caesar crossing the Rubicon. His soldiers were loyal not because he paid them lavishly, but because he commanded respect, instilled fear, and created the sense that their destinies were entwined with his triumph. Wealth alone could never have won that war. Influence, the silent shaping of perception, did. Without it, armies desert, treasuries empty. Power collapses like a fragile crystal under the slightest pressure. And here lies the cruel irony: men labor all their lives, convinced that amassing wealth is the summit of achievement. Yet, without influence, they are statues in a garden, admired but ignored, surrounded by coins that cannot defend them, cannot sway a whisper of allegiance, cannot change the course of events. How many fortunes have vanished because their owners lacked the patience to convert gold into authority, to turn money into a silent, obedient servant? How many lives spent in comfort, yet meaningless in the theater of power? So I ask you now, what is the purpose of your wealth? Is it a badge for your vanity, or a tool to bend reality to your will? Can you see the difference between those who command with silent precision and those who only possess without control? Wealth is a seed, not a fruit. If you do not nurture it with influence, strategy, and subtle dominance, it rots in your hands. It is a hollow echo of potential, a lie you tell yourself while others manipulate the world before your eyes. In the next segment, we will examine how to bend the human will itself using your gold, transforming passive accumulation into active conquest. For now, remember this: a fool counts coins, the wise count the sway those coins command. And the moment you realize that distinction, you stand at the edge of true power, where money is no longer a possession, but a weapon, a whisper, a force unseen and irresistible. But what does it truly take to awaken that dormant power? That is the secret few dare to explore. Do you know why some men, far poorer than you, bend entire courts, markets, and armies to their will? The secret is not gold, not brute force, but leverage. The subtle art of using what you have to command what you do not. Leverage is the quiet whisper behind closed doors, the invisible thread that moves kings, merchants, and fools alike. Without it, your wealth is a weight dragging you down. With it, a single coin can topple empires. History is littered with men who understood this principle. Take Lorenzo de' Medici, the cunning fox of Florence. His coffers were ample, yes, but his true mastery lay in knowing whom to favor, whom to betray, and when to extend a hand that seemed generous yet bound the recipient in invisible chains. Every loan, every gift, every promise carried strings unseen. Is leverage transforming ordinary resources into instruments of control, bending others to your will without them ever realizing the hand guiding them? Ask yourself, are you simply giving, or are you orchestrating outcomes with each gesture? Leverage begins with understanding human nature. Men are weak, impulsive, and easily swayed by need, desire, or fear. If you can identify these vulnerabilities, your gold, or your influence, your knowledge, your timing, becomes a lever, a crowbar that moves the world without effort. The banker who lent to kings understood this instinctively. A king may command armies, but a king in debt is a puppet whose strings are invisible yet unbreakable. Have you ever considered that every favor, every investment, every act of persuasion can be a chain, hidden beneath a velvet glove? Psychology teaches us that leverage is not force, it is perception. The man who appears magnanimous wields more influence than the man who demands obedience. By giving, you can take far more than by seizing. By suggesting, you can direct far more than by shouting. Every debt, emotional or financial, is a lever in disguise. And every man, regardless of pride or cunning, reacts to leverage, often without noticing the trap tightening around him. Can you see how simple it is to control what seems uncontrollable? Consider the political games of the Renaissance courts. Princes who could not muster armies learned to manipulate ambassadors, merchants, and allies to act as extensions of their will. One coin, one favor, one secret shared at the right moment could shift alliances, topple rivals, or secure a throne. Leverage is patience married to perception. It is strategy disguised as generosity. It is the silent art of bending men, systems, and events without ever showing the effort behind your mastery. You may think you have power because you have money, but have you learned to move men with it? Even in more modern times, leverage defines success. The financier who shapes markets, the strategist who wins wars without fighting, the ruler who commands loyalty with subtle favors. They all understand one principle: to wield influence through resources you already possess. A single well-placed investment can ripple into dominance. A carefully timed loan can shift allegiances. A whispered suggestion can ignite revolutions or prevent them. And the world, blind to your subtlety, bows before the leverage you command. Do you see how fragile true power is in the hands of those who ignore it? Yet most men squander their leverage, blind to its invisible potential. They distribute wealth blindly, give without calculation, or reveal their intentions too soon. And what is the consequence? Others, sharper and more patient, seize control. Your gold becomes a tool for their ascent, your efforts feeding their power while you remain a spectator. Leverage is not merely having resources, it is knowing precisely how, when, and to whom they should be applied to create maximum effect. It is strategy incarnate, the difference between a fool and a master. So I ask you now, how will you use what you already hold? Will you be content to see your resources wasted, or will you convert every coin, every favor, every connection into a silent, irresistible force? The moment you recognize leverage, you step from mere possession into command, from wealth that lies dormant to power that moves unseen. But mastery of leverage is only the beginning. For there is a further, darker step, one where influence becomes manipulation, where control extends beyond consent, and where the weak are ensnared before they even perceive the trap. And in that realm, only the shrewd survive. Do you understand why some men strike at the perfect moment while others fumble, wealth in hand, opportunity lost? Timing is not coincidence. It is mastery. The world obeys those who wait, those who strike when advantage ripens, and those who recognize the fleeting instant when fortune bends to their will. Money alone is impotent if spent in haste or misjudged opportunity. Do you see now that the moment is as valuable as the coin itself? Consider the conquerors of old. Hannibal crossed the Alps not simply because he commanded armies, but because he understood the precise moment to exploit his enemy's complacency. He did not act at random, he acted when Rome was vulnerable, when fear and underestimation aligned in his favor. Each step was calculated, each move timed with precision. Could he have amassed wealth or legions at the wrong moment? Yes, and yet all would have been wasted. Timing transforms potential into dominion. Even in politics, timing defines mastery. A prince who seizes power too soon risks rebellion, one who hesitates risks irrelevance. Observe the ascension of Octavian. He waited, patient and calculating, letting others exhaust themselves in ambition, while he positioned himself strategically. Then, with impeccable precision, he struck, consolidating power while rivals floundered. His wealth, his armies, his influence, all became instruments only because he knew when to wield them. Do you possess wealth but lack discernment in its application? Then you are not rich, you are at the mercy of chance. Timing is psychological as much as strategic. Human behavior is cyclical, predictable, and fraught with emotional peaks. The clever manipulator observes moods, fears, and desires, striking when resistance is low and compliance is high. A bribe or favor given too early may be wasted, offered too late, it may be resented. Observe the subtle hand of the Medici, who released support to allies just as rivals grew ambitious, creating dependency and loyalty without overt coercion. Their gold was nothing without the rhythm of its deployment. Do you perceive the subtle dance? Even commerce obeys timing. Consider the shrewd financiers of Renaissance Florence, whose fortunes rose and fell not simply on the accumulation of coin, but on the rhythm of markets, loans, and debts. One ill-timed loan could bankrupt a family, one perfectly timed investment could crown a merchant king. They understood that patience is more lethal than aggression, that hesitation can be a weapon, and that impulse is the enemy of wealth. How often have men squandered opportunity because they lacked the discipline to wait? Yet timing is not mere waiting. It is awareness. It is the capacity to observe all currents of human behavior, to measure the shifting tides of politics, commerce, and desire, and to act when the alignment is perfect. Do you rush anxious to see results? Or do you study the world, noting every subtle imbalance, every weakness, every fleeting chance to turn circumstance to your favor? The man who acts without timing is like a swordsman swinging blindly in the dark. He may strike, but the enemy will fall unscathed, and he will bleed for his folly. There is also a darker truth. The world punishes impatience more than it punishes hesitation. Impulsive men expend wealth to satisfy vanity or fear. Cautious men who study, plan, and observe convert the same resources into influence, obedience, and lasting power. Your coin can buy admiration, loyalty, or fear, but only if it is applied at the precise juncture when it multiplies influence. Can you feel the weight of wasted potential in the hands of those blind to timing? And so, I ask you, are you content to be a fool with riches in your grasp, blind to the rhythm of events? Or will you become a master who waits, watches, and strikes with precision, turning wealth into authority, influence, and inevitability? Timing elevates men above fortune itself, allowing a calculated few to bend the course of history while the rest scramble, powerless, at their heels. But beware, timing is only half the art. To act at the right moment requires more than observation. It demands audacity, courage, and the readiness to embrace risk when the opportunity arises. And the question that remains for the next segment is this: how do you combine patience with boldness to seize control of men and money alike? That is the truth few ever master. Have you ever watched a man give freely, proud of his benevolence, while failing to notice the subtle chains forming around him? Generosity, when executed without calculation, is the favorite trap of the knave. The world applauds the hand that gives, yet the wise know that giving is power only when it imposes obligation. Do you see now how easily men confuse charity with mastery or kindness with control? History offers lessons in subtle cruelty disguised as generosity. Consider the Medici once more, masters of appearances. They gave funds to scholars, artists, and citizens alike, and the city hailed them as benefactors. Yet every gift carried invisible strings. A debt of gratitude, a sense of loyalty, an unspoken need to comply. These were the true fruits of their largesty. The gold was merely the mask. The real power lay in the manipulation it concealed. Tell me, do you give freely? Or do you understand the obligations your gifts can create? Even kings practiced this art, though few understood it fully. Louis XIV of France distributed titles, favors, and lands, appearing magnanimous while secretly weaving a web of dependency across his nobility. Each estate granted, each privilege offered, subtly bound men to his will, ensuring that even the proudest courtiers could not act without his tacit approval. Generosity in this form is not kindness, it is control wrapped in velvet. Can you recognize the invisible threads of obligation forming when you hand a coin, a favor, or a word to another? Psychology illuminates why this works. Men are social creatures, deeply aware of debts, both real and perceived. A gift creates gratitude, and gratitude can be molded into loyalty or fear. The recipient, even if unaware, feels compelled to respond in kind. A well-timed favor, a thoughtful gift, or a subtle loan can secure obedience, silence opposition, or even manipulate belief. Have you ever considered that each act of generosity can be a tool of domination, a lever pulling men toward your objectives without their knowledge? But beware, the illusion of generosity is fragile. The knave give without intent, expecting admiration or affection in return, only to discover that influence cannot be purchased by wealth alone. True power lies in the calculated release of resources, always designed to extract more than what was given. A bribe is not merely a coin, it is a promise unspoken, a quiet influence planted. Every act of generosity must serve a strategy, a chess move in the grand game of control. Do you give, or do you command? Even in commerce, the principle holds. Merchants of Venice, skilled in negotiation and subtle coercion, understood that loans, gifts, and trade incentives were far more than mere transactions. They were instruments to bend rivals, create dependencies, and extend influence across borders. A gift without strategy is wasted. A gift with intention can enslave the mind, shape perception, and bind a city to your will. Consider, then, the weight of your own gestures. Are they empty, or do they carry the invisible chains of influence? The lesson is stark: generosity without purpose is weakness. The world rewards cunning, not kindness. The fool gives to impress, the strategist gives to dominate. Each coin, each favor, each gesture must be calculated, placed precisely to maximize control. The act of giving is only as powerful as the obligations it creates, the loyalty it binds, and the perception it manipulates. Ask yourself, when you give, who truly benefits? The recipient, or the unseen architect of obligation? And now, I leave you with this thought: generosity is a mask, a tool, and sometimes a weapon. But few realize that beneath every act of giving lies the potential to control, to manipulate, and to bend circumstance to your will. In the next segment, we will explore silence as strategy, the power of restraint, and the deadly advantage of concealing your intentions. For in a world where generosity can be a chain, silence becomes the sharpest blade. Do you know the deadliest weapon in the hands of the shrewd? It is not gold, not armies, nor influence. It is silence. To speak is to reveal, to act is to expose, and to trust indiscriminately is to weaken your position. The world is filled with men who squander wealth, power, and opportunity by filling the air with words. Yet those who master restraint, those who let others speak while they observe, command the room, the court, and ultimately the fate of men. Do you see now how dangerous your own tongue can be if left unchecked? History is a mirror reflecting the power of silence. Consider Cesare Borgia, a man whose enemies often underestimated him because he revealed nothing while observing everything. He allowed others to boast, to plot, to argue among themselves, and then, when the moment was precise, he struck, not with noise, but with cold precision. His silence was a cloak, concealing ambition and intentions. Do you speak too soon, or do you allow the world to betray itself before you act? Even in politics, silence can wield more authority than speech. The ruler who announces every intention exposes weakness. The strategist who conceals designs invites speculation, fear, and respect. Observe the cunning of Queen Elizabeth I. She revealed little, suggested less, and let advisors, allies, and enemies alike interpret her intentions. In the uncertainty, they acted for her, thinking themselves free, while she subtly guided the outcomes. Have you noticed how silence can make others reveal themselves, offering you power without resistance? Psychology explains why silence is lethal. Humans are compelled to fill gaps to seek meaning in absence. When you withhold speech, others project, speculate, and often overreach. The timid will reveal fears, the ambitious will expose plots. All of this occurs while you remain untouched, observing, calculating, and preparing to move with precision. Have you considered how much knowledge you forfeit when you speak too soon, or how much leverage you lose by revealing your hand? Silence also cultivates perception. The man who listens, who reacts subtly, who controls what is known and unknown, appears stronger than he is. Perception is reality, and perception is shaped less by action than by restraint. Napoleon understood this. Even before he commanded an army, his calculated reticence in debates and meetings made allies and rivals alike anticipate his next move, fearing the quiet mind behind calm eyes. Wealth alone could not inspire such anticipation. Silence did. Can you feel the weight of your own words when they betray intent? Yet silence is not mere inaction. It is strategic patience, observation, and timing combined. It is allowing others to reveal ambitions, weaknesses, and fears while you prepare, silently, to turn their actions to your advantage. The general who rushes to speak before the battle understands neither his enemies nor himself. The financier who reveals his plan too early allows competitors to counter it. The leader who boasts his intentions invites betrayal. Do you act or speak without calculation, or do you wield silence as your instrument of domination? Even in social manipulation, silence is a weapon. The careful observer lets gossip, flattery, and debate unfold around them. They listen to desires, motives, and insecurities, all while appearing passive. Each word spoken by others becomes data, leverage, a stepping stone to influence. The wise rarely reveal their aims directly. They allow perception to do their bidding. Do you manipulate reality, or do you broadcast your weaknesses for all to see? So I ask you, are you content to waste words, revealing ambition, need, and strategy? Or will you master the art of silence, where every pause, every calculated omission, becomes a force shaping men and events alike? Silence is the foundation upon which power is built, the unseen hand that guides actions without resistance, and the shroud behind which true influence grows. But silence, while powerful, is only part of the greater game. For withholding speech is not enough. You must also know when to act, when to strike, and when to let others believe they act of their own accord. In the next segment, we will explore the ultimate truth that wealth, influence, and timing converge only when conquest is not just planned, but executed with ruthless precision. And the question remains, can you wait, observe, and strike without the world ever realizing it? Do you know the greatest trap of wealth and power? It is not scarcity, nor betrayal, nor misfortune. It is contentment. Men labor for riches, accumulate influence, and master timing, only to pause, satisfied with comfort, mistaking stability for supremacy. Yet history reveals a simple truth: those who rest on their laurels are devoured by those who continue to seize. Wealth is a tool, influence is a weapon, and opportunity is a fleeting shadow. None of these serve the idle. Ask yourself, are you building an empire or merely furnishing a palace of complacency? Consider Alexander the Great. By every measure, he had conquered the known world, yet he pressed further, driven not by comfort, but by the insatiable pursuit of power. A man content would have returned home to enjoy his victories, to count his wealth, to bask in admiration. Alexander understood that conquest is a process, never a conclusion. Each victory was a stepping stone, each battle a lesson, each city subdued a testament to relentless ambition. Do you understand the danger of pausing, of believing that the summit has been reached? Even merchants and financiers who dominate trade cannot afford contentment. The Medici again teach us this principle. Their coffers were overflowing, their influence pervasive, but the truly powerful never ceased to expand, to maneuver, to consolidate. Rest was an illusion. Dominance demanded constant vigilance, constant recalibration, constant conquest of circumstance and men alike. Comfort is the enemy of control, and those who settle find themselves outmaneuvered by the relentless, the patient, the audacious. Will you be patient in pursuit, or will comfort dull your edge? Psychology reveals why contentment is so dangerous. Satisfaction breeds complacency. The mind, once pleased, ceases to innovate, to calculate, to observe. It relaxes, and in relaxation, it becomes vulnerable. Those who have mastered timing, leverage silence, and subtle obligations still falter if they believe conquest is finished. The world does not pause to admire your achievements. It moves, shifts, and waits only for the slow to falter. Can you see how fleeting the advantage of wealth and influence truly is? Even in warfare, the principle is clear. A general who rests after a victory allows the enemy to regroup. A king who pauses invites rebellion. A trader who stops innovating loses markets to competitors who act with restless cunning. Contentment is a slow poison, a quiet surrender to the illusion that you are untouchable. The truly formidable do not measure their power in accumulated gold or titles. They measure it in unbroken momentum, in the ability to act decisively while others hesitate, in the relentless pursuit of objectives until every advantage is secured. Are you advancing, or merely admiring your trophies? History is littered with the comfortable who fell. Kings whose coffers overflowed but whose vigilance waned were deposed by the clever, the hungry, the unrelenting. Wealth without conquest is a garden. Beautiful, yes, but defenseless. Influence without pursuit is a flame, bright for a moment, then extinguished. Do you understand now why the great men of history never rested, never allowed themselves satisfaction, and never mistook accumulation for mastery? So I ask you, will you cling to comfort, counting coins while others shape the future? Or will you embrace the restless hunger that defines true power? Conquest is not an act. It is a state of mind. It is the refusal to accept limits, the insistence that every resource, every relationship, every opportunity be transformed into leverage, influence, and authority. Wealth is only potent when it fuels ambition, influence only meaningful when it extends your reach, and timing only advantageous when it leads to further conquest. And finally, the question remains, will you allow yourself to be content, or will you recognize that mastery is an endless pursuit, that the moment you pause, you become prey? The world does not wait for satisfaction. It rewards only the relentless. In the next revelation, we will uncover the subtle ways in which true power can be defended, extended, and immortalized, even when the eyes of the world believe conquest is complete. And when you see this, you will understand that contentment is not a virtue, but a trap few survive. Power is not taken by force alone. It is seized in silence, in observation, in the unseen currents of influence. Wealth, favors, and words are weapons only when wielded with precision. Otherwise, they are mere noise. Ask yourself who truly controls the world: the loud, the generous, the impatient, or the patient who bends men without their knowledge? Every debt, every obligation, every whispered suggestion can be a chain. Every pause, every silence, every calculated action can command obedience. The wise act without announcing intent. They observe, they wait, they manipulate subtly. The foolish reveal themselves at every opportunity and fall easily into traps they do not perceive. Now, reflect, where do you stand? Are you a silent architect of control or merely a spectator of others' mastery? If this insight resonates, leave a comment with your thoughts or experiences in influence and strategy. Subscribe to delve deeper into the dark arts of human control, and share this video. Only the cunning will understand its value. The world bends to those who see, wait, and strike. Will you be among them,